Today we're going to be working on this 7.3 here. We've got a stack of injector reseal kits for it. All 8 are coming out and getting resealed, as well as new valve cover gaskets going on. This thing would die not long after it started, and what we found is the back injector on this bank has not been torqued. Now this engine was rebuilt by somebody, they didn't use it. This person bought it to put in this truck because this truck broke a crankshaft, and it hasn't ran since. It immediately bleeds off high pressure oil. So once I get some stuff together here and hop up there, I'll show you what I found on that back injector, and then we're gonna start pulling them out and resealing them all. And anytime we work on anything that's got an international engine in it, 7.3 power stroke, 6 liter, 6.4, we always use Motorcraft OE parts on them. Never want to use anything aftermarket on these. So these are our new valve cover gaskets. If you've never seen how a 7.3 works, they actually have plugs that go through your valve covers to power your injectors. So if it's an OBS truck, this type of body, not a round body, it's got 2 plugs. When it went to the round body, it's got a center plug in it that just does all this in one. But that's how you get power to the injectors on these trucks. So I don't know how well you guys can see it, but the oil deflector is pushed way out of the way. It should be sitting like that, flush up against the injector. So after it's fired, that takes the oil and it pushes it back down, so it's not just shooting it straight up at the valve cover. And this injector is up and can move around. So we're going to get all these oil deflectors out of here first, then we'll get the hold downs loosened up. But we're only going to take these out one at a time and reseal them, so we make sure to put the injector back in the same hole it came from. So we're going to get one of these injectors pulled out here. So there are 2 bolts that hold them, but you only need to take off the one right here on the outside. You know, this bolt does have to come all the way out too. The other one stays in. It's, I don't know if you can see it, there's one right under there. So now that that bolt's out, that injector hold down can come over, just like that. And then I get something under there. So now that we have that bolt out, we can slide that injector hold down back, and we can just pop this injector up out of the hole here. So you can see that bolt's still down in there, but this hold down is clearanced if you slide it all the way back to be able to fit over it. And there we go. Got the injector out, so now we can take it over there and reseal it. Now there is going to be stuff leaking down into that cylinder, and I do have a vacuum tool with me to clear those cylinders out before I put the injectors back in. And that Mighty Vac right there is just what I use. That'll actually fit down through the hole where the injector tip goes, so I can get it all the way down in the cylinder and suck all the oil and fuel that's leaking back in there out. Now when we're done, I'm not just going to go to cranking on this thing. I am going to bar it over a few full revolutions before we try to crank it, just to make sure if there is anything left, that it gets pushed out without causing damage inside of the cylinder. So we got the injector out here. Now what we're going to do is get everything laid out. So we've got a new crush washer. That is the top seal. It's the O-ring, it's the mid one, bottom O-ring, and that seal goes between that one and this one. So to start with, we'll get the crush washer off. Be very careful when you do this. You do not want to damage anything. Let's start by getting that crush washer off there, which that crush washer looks terrible. But now that that's off, we'll start getting these O-rings off. So this pick is actually designed to be used for O-rings, so it scoops underneath of them, helps you walk them off, but it's not sharp, so you can't cut or damage your O-ring while you're working with it. I mean, I guess you probably still could if you tried really hard, but you shouldn't be able to with this. There we go. Now it's been stripped, so we're going to take this and clean it up before we install any of our new parts over here for it. So there we go. We've got it all wiped down, cleaned up. Now we're going to start walking our new seals on. So the first thing you do is put on this metal, almost looks like a snap ring. Then we've got our square cut seal here. There is some little white marks on the outside to tell you that it's sitting right, because when you go to roll it on, it has a tendency to try to flip on itself. So you want to make sure that those white marks are facing out. Now if you look right now, they're kind of down. What you can do is take your O-ring spoon like this, just kind of walk around it under that at a circle, and it will put it back to its natural position. So anyway, we got those facing out. Take our black O-ring, get it on there. Next up is this red one. This red one actually can be a bit of a pain sometimes. It stops right about there. It's a pretty tough seal. So what we do is get our tool, start walking it around slowly while holding it down. Once you get it started a little bit, it just pops right in place. Orange O-ring is on there. It feels like it's got some twist to it though, so I'm gonna make sure the twist is out of it. And then we've got our crush washer here. So we're gonna go ahead and put our crush washer on. Get it started, and then what I usually do is just take a socket on the top and just very lightly just tap it down on there. You don't want to damage this surface because it is a sealing surface, so if you can't just, I sit this on and I just barely push. If it takes more than a little bit of a tap with your palm, it's too much. You need to clean it up and take care of that, because you don't want to damage this, because this is what's sealing all the combustion in. But there we go. There's a resealed injector. Now before I drop this in the cylinder, I am going to put a little bit of fresh oil all down this and wipe it on to make sure that these seals aren't going in dry. Before I can do that, I got to go clean out the cylinder. So you can see down in there, there's a little bit of oily residue. I've got it sucked out already. What I'm going to go do is, we have long Q-tips that we use when we clean injector bores. I'm going to go grab some of those and wipe in there to get the rest of that oil residue out of there, because I want that to be pretty clean and dry when I go to drop the new one in. Also, once it's clean, I'm going to take the bore scope real quick over there and inspect the injector cup and everything down in there to make sure that there's not any other concerns in that hole. Well, we got to that back cylinder there, and I'm kind of wishing I would have started with that one now. So we knew that that had backed off and the bolt was loose. Found out why though. Somebody has stripped out that hole and they just tried epoxying the bolt in. That's not going to hold back the compression of a diesel. That's going to pop that right out of there. Like, that's terrible. You never do that. If the hole's messed up, you put a proper threaded insert in there and you fix the hole right. This is ridiculous. You know, then to pass this engine off and sell it to somebody like that, that's just shitty. Like, that's, I don't even have words. That is not what you do. So now I get to look at how that hole is set up, because looking at the epoxy here, it looks like they drilled it really off center. So I need to see where it's at, how bad it is, and if we can get a threaded insert in there and save the cylinder head. Because right now, I'm not sure. That hole looks really freaking off-centered for me to try to put a new one in there. See if I can open it up though, and maybe have enough meat left on the cylinder head where this grabs to hop on McMaster-Carr and order a proper threaded insert for it, or we'll have to see what's up. Well, good news is, they didn't drill it the best, but it looks like we can save that. There's quite a bit of metal left around it. Just gotta hope that that little bit of offset that they drilled into it isn't enough that we can't get the injector hole down to go down in there. So, I think what we're gonna do next is I'm gonna take this injector, get the camera out of the way here. What we're gonna do next is I'm gonna try to get this epoxy off this bolt. We'll match up those threads. Then I'm probably gonna hop on McMaster-Carr and find a threaded insert that will fit that. That won't be too big to go down in what I have left of the metal there, and leaving obviously enough that I have a good bite that I'm not gonna pop the threaded insert out after we fix it.